Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TRS Live with your hosts Brian Keller, Matt Trotz, and Zach Huffman, presented by The Real Shot.
I'ma do this here forever.
EQ.
Forever.
Triune.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever. I'ma do this here forever.
Let's go.
All you haters better get comfy. This the day you've been waiting on. Y'all road is finna get bumpy. This the track I'm making my statement on. I ain't going nowhere. This the place that I'm making home. I'll do this shit forever. Hit the gas and I'm taking off. Ow. I was born with passion. My job is never ending and my hustle's everlasting. No matter what, I'm gon' ball, even with my back to the wall. And the best part is that this is the beginning. I'ma do this here forever. Forever.
Roger said
Here we go.
they could smell you, never kill one.
Yeah, that's right. All right, good morning. It is Friday. We are ready to go. It's exciting out. The sun is somewhat shining. It was earlier. I think, is this the first day in like a long time, Zach, that the weather's actually been above like 20 degrees?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, it's been pretty awful.
There's a lot of Wisconsin. There's a lot of Wisconsin nights that are just ready for the warm up to happen, and the now we're what 1 to 3, 1 to 5, depending on where you live
Or who you listen to.
or where you listen to.
1 to 3, it sounds
1 to
like.
3, rain, snow, sleet, all that stuff. We talked about that on Wednesday, but let's not be on the doldrums of that. We got some people chiming in, so good morning to everybody that's watching. All right, so today we are going to continue our turkey talk after, what was it, Monday we had Carl in
Wednesday,
here?
wasn't it?
What, Wednesday?
Was it Wednesday?
No, Wednesday was Caleb.
That's right. It was Monday.
Yeah, Monday we had Carl in here. He came in and he spoke about the Great Lakes Open Turkey Call Making competition that we're holding here at the Real Shot. That's today.
It is.
And that's why I have these two fine guests next to me. I have Greg Shermo and I have Brian Lovett. These guys have both been with the NWTF in the turkey woods for, geez, how many years? Over 20 plus years, guys. Not to say ages, but
Yeah, 100 of them for almost 30, I guess. So
holy man, there's a lot of turkey knowledge that's sitting to my right. So
It'll be 35 this spring for me. So
oh, really?
That's great.
That's awesome. So we're going to get into that kind of stuff. But, yeah, remember, if anybody wants to come out Saturday here at the Real Shot from the hours of 9 to 5, the turkey calling, judging will happen today. That's what you guys are going to be a part of. And then tomorrow it's open to the public. So we want people to come on in here, especially if the weather's going to be crappy. What else are you going to do? Come on in here and, play with some turkey calls. I was kind of looking at the tables. There's a wide array
looks good.
of turkey calls. And I was hearing the final numbers, just like 3 to 4 short of 200 different types of turkey calls.
197 calls, I think.
197 different calls. Now, Carl was hoping that if they broke that 200 point, this would be the second largest one, I think, in the state or in the
country.
in
I
the
believe,
country.
Yeah.
Well, good for him and good
Awesome.
for everybody that's affiliated with that. That's phenomenal. So, if anybody's watching this, get your turkey calls in next year. Let's make it the biggest one.
There you go.
Let's
Right.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go 250. Let's go 300. Let's make these guys really work on these.
Make it a 2-day event.
Yeah, 2-day event. It is, make it all that kind of cool stuff. So let's get into what we got going on today. We're talking turkey with Greg and Brian, and we already kind of talked about it. You guys have had, oodles of experience hunting turkeys, many different states. You've been to Mexico.
I have.
Have you been to Mexico?
I have not.
You guys both have completed the Turkey Grand Slam. So I don't know if one of you guys want to take that over. Talk about what that actually is.
4 subspecies, Brian. The
Yeah.
Eastern, Miriam's, Rio, and the Osceola, which you can only get in the southern half of Florida.
Right.
So
Wow. Now, that season for the Florida stuff, they're hunting birds down there already, aren't they?
next week. Well, I take that back. The far south zone.
Yeah,
the
the
southern zone.
South zone opened this past Saturday.
Saturday,
Yep.
yeah.
So the central and southern zones are going to open a week from tomorrow, basically.
Okay.
Yep.
I know I've been seeing some pictures on social media of these guys killing some of these Osceolas.
Yeah.
I mean, since we're on that topic, is that a tough bird to kill? We have kind of talked about it earlier, but
You know, they can be. It really depends on the scenario you're hunting them in. Lovett Williams always said an Osceola is just an eastern with longer legs, basically. And they act very similar to southeastern easterns, I guess. You know, the habitat they're in can make them tough because it's obviously
Open.
Yeah, the big cattle pastures. And then conversely, you have these big cypress heads and a lot of very thick vegetation. And, you know, some people say they gobble less than other turkeys. I've never really experienced that. I mean, some days they gobble well, some days they don't. A lot of times when they gobble, the foliage is so thick you have difficulty hearing them past 300-400 yards. You know,
I agree with Brian.
Yeah, I mean, up here, when we first get in our first week, we hardly have any leaves. I mean, this year we're going to have 3 feet of snow that we're going to have to trudge through.
To Brian's point, if you consider like the late zones or late time periods here in Wisconsin, that's what you're hunting
dealing
in
with
Florida.
down there in
Because
Florida.
the vegetation's up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Greg, since you were the last one to talk, I'm going to tag you for a while. Can you give us a brief background on what you got going on and how long you've been with the NWTF and everything like that?
Well, I guess I first joined the NWTF in 1985. Wisconsin issued their first tags in 1984, I believe it was, right?
I think
in that
so,
vintage.
yeah.
And I was lucky enough to draw a tag, and I went to a turkey hunting clinic. I didn't know thing one about turkey hunting.
Right.
Did some deer hunting as a kid, but something just pushed a button for me, and so I went to a clinic, and they were offering memberships to the NWTF, and I joined. And I've been a member since 1985. I've served on the state board. I've been president of the state board, vice president of the state board, treasurer for a while. And I took a couple years off, got back on the board, and I'm president again now. So I don't learn, I guess.
Either that or you're just that good that everybody wants you on there.
And I just love turkey hunting. And I've, like I said, been a member for a long time. I'm a Diamond Life sponsor member at this point. And I've seen things come and go with the Turkey Federation, and when I first got involved, it was all about the turkey, to bring it back. Their mission, their goal was birds everywhere, and
right.
they've got them just about everywhere except Alaska.
Yeah.
And I was involved with some trap and transfer, awesome experience, and you trap them in the wintertime, gets pretty cold, and you move them, and I helped one time. We were trapping birds down in the Spring Green area by the Wisconsin River there, and the birds we caught that day were heading to Texas.
Wow.
We sent, one day was Texas, the other day was Tennessee.
Okay.
And when those people see birds that we weighed them, boxed them, put a wing tag in them for them, and one truck was, on the one day was heading for Oklahoma City to meet the folks from Texas, and the next day truck left for Tennessee, and you're putting birds in that weigh in the wintertime. It was January when you're doing the trapping. They weighed from 23 to 26 pounds. And now these birds hit the southern states, and these are they are not used to that size bird, and they were tickled pink. But
right,
that went into their breeding pool, and now their birds are gaining weight, are getting bigger over time. And
so in the 80s, when you kind of joined into everything like that, what was the turkey population like in Wisconsin per se?
Well, it was pretty limited to a few counties over along the river. They started with, I believe it was 176 birds, something like that, from Missouri that were originally started.
Yep.
And when they opened the first season, it was a real limited number of tags. I want to say 100, 125. And population guessed, I would have said maybe 1,000, 1,200 birds.
Whoa.
That's guess numbers. I mean, I don't have hard data in front of me.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah.
But that's my gut feeling. And like I said, when I 184, I was real green. And as it turned out, I could have shot a jake that I didn't know what it was. But
now,
it was neat when that bird came to the call. You're, wow.
Yeah. Right. So you didn't get one that first year?
Nope.
Nice.
And it was less than time from the start. I had a jake come right in behind me and peeking at me through the bush I'm sitting next against. And why that head's really red, but I don't see a beard.
Right.
So I let him go, and then I had a bird come in, and I thought, man, this is a lot easier than I thought. I mean, these birds rushing in, and I can hear him gobbling from the bottom of the valley, and he's coming right up towards me. All of a sudden, he stops, and I don't can't figure out what's wrong. I hear him to my right a little bit. I hear him in front of me, to my left. He's going back and forth and back and forth. Maybe 80 yards away, and I don't know what's going on. Pretty soon I see him going up the hill the other way, and I'd make a soft call, and he'd hammer it back and look, keep going. Well, when I got up about an hour later after I gave up on him, I found a little single wire electric fence down in front of me that he had absolutely no intention of going under, which he could have easily done. Flown over, which he could have easily done.
Right.
But he just hung up and would not cross that electric fence.
Isn't that nuts?
That was my first experience with turkeys.
Right. And now, I mean, look at all the knowledge you gained from just that one experience.
First day,
I mean, that is one of the tactics they say, try not to put any barriers in between you. Now, I'll argue that point because I was hunting just north of town here with a gentleman, and I watched 2 toms walk through water that was almost a foot deep. And, you always hear about that. Don't get a creek in between you. Don't get a wire fence or anything like that. These birds hung up about 60 to 80 yards, and they went way around our set and walked through I would have needed knee boots to walk through that.
Somebody said once to me, there's a lot of rules in turkeys with turkey hunting.
Yep.
But there is even more exceptions.
Yeah.
For every rule, there's at least 2 exceptions.
Right.
So you say they won't cross water, you can go out tomorrow and
right,
you just said,
right
through the creek, right
through it,
yep.
right through it.
They won't fly to you. Well, I beg to differ.
Right. I've had them pitch right out in the decoys.
Yeah. Well, that early morning that happens, but I've had mid-morning birds that are gobbling on one ridge that I'm on the opposite ridge, and they've flown across the valley to come to me, and I'm mid-morning.
No way.
Yes, and
that's you
that's
must be
not typical.
Yeah, you're a good turkey caller is what it is. What it is.
Push the right button on the right day.
And so, Brian, the same kind of stuff. Give a little brief background on you.
Well, I grew up southern Wisconsin, and I didn't know anything about turkeys. We didn't have turkeys when I was a kid. I remember we used to hunt a lot in the Meadow Valley area, and they'd actually had a failed introduction of turkeys there in the 60s. And one day, my dad stopped the truck as a flock of turkeys crossed in front of us. It was like seeing a group of dinosaurs. It was like the coolest thing. I'd never seen a wild turkey before. And, I don't know, maybe 10 years later, I think it was 1989 or 1990, my dad wanted to go hunt turkeys. And I'm like, yeah, sure, what the heck? I mean, fishing's not getting good yet. I'll give it a try, And I knew nothing. I mean, I had a Ben Lee cassette tape, a Dick Kirby Quaker Boy box call, and a Quaker Boy mouth call. And I thought I was pretty good on those, which I wasn't. But and we went down to Prairie du Chien and hunted down there. And the first day, there were birds gobbling everywhere. And if I'd have known then what I know now, you could have killed the turkey in the first hour, no problem. But
right.
I was so bad. I just sat there because I heard you can't move because the turkey's going to see you, So, I mean, I had birds coming in. I was just frozen in fear almost looking for these birds. And, basically let them walk off. And I didn't kill a turkey, I think, until my 4th year of hunting.
Okay.
Yeah, and even that, I kind of stumbled into it,
Right.
But I'd been to a lot of the classes, that they held, NWTF held, like Greg did.
Yeah, he taught a lot of them.
Yeah, and I killed that first gobbler, I think in, 92 or 93, and then killed a Jake the next year, and I figured I'd had it figured out, I was pretty good. And that later that year, I was working at Krause Publications up in Iola doing Wisconsin Outdoor Journal magazine, and an opening came up at Turkey and Turkey Hunting magazine. So they had me start editing that as well. And then that spring, I got to go down to Alabama for my first out-of-state hunt. And I got down there and sat down the first morning, and those guys started calling. I immediately realized that I knew nothing about turkey hunting. Nothing. So I just shut up for the next few years and tried to listen and learn.
Right.
And it just kind of went from there. I was able to do turkey and turkey hunting for a couple stints for almost 20 years. And since 2014, I've been with the NWTF's Turkey Country magazine, doing their On the Hunt section. And along the way, I've written 5 turkey books and gotten to judge quite a few contests and travel quite a few places. So it's been a great journey. So,
wow.
Thanks to the turkey.
Yeah, right. You think about it, a bird that we at one point didn't think we'd have in Wisconsin, and now a lot of people consider them pests.
Nope. They're in my bird feeder.
They're in my bird feeders, right?
Yeah, they're turkeys in town now. I mean,
they're on my deck.
Yeah,
right.
They poop on my deck.
Yeah. Here's a tip: stop feeding the birds.
Where do you live?
Yeah. It is funny you say that because we get a lot of customers that will come into the store and they'll be like, yeah, the same kind of thing. Or like the deer are eating my plants or something. I'm like, yeah, you know, we're pretty good at helping eradicate that kind of stuff, you know, if you don't mind. But yeah, it is. I always refer to, and I think I've mentioned this before on the show, like turkey hunting and golf should go hand in hand, because it's like you could have the best day. We talked with that on Carl on Monday. I mean, you could be done. You could get out there and be done and back at the house before any, you know, major restaurants open up for breakfast, you know. Or I've sat more all day, you know, 40+ hour hunts than I've ever done for deer.
Well, the interesting thing is, years ago, they'd pattern their hunting in Wisconsin after Missouri. Well, they started with a noon closing time.
Yep.
Then it went to 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Then it went to 4. Then it went to 5. Now it's sunset.
Yep.
I mean, I remember the 12 o'clock days when you're sitting there and at 11:55 you finally get his attention.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you're just like, come on.
Yep. And at 12:03 you unload your gun,
yep.
and he's at 40 yards.
He's right there. He's right there. And you know,
and I've done it, and it's, you know, and, well, why didn't you shoot it? You know, it's close to any time. Not in my game.
No. It is. It's not worth it.
Nope.
It's not worth it.
It's all about an ethical hunt, and to me, watching him unloading the gun and
yep.
just staring at him was win.
You get to go chase him tomorrow.
I got to
yep.
go after him tomorrow.
Yep.
You know, now it's like a chessboard, because now you got to figure out everything you did today. He's probably going to be a little bit wiser to it. So now you have to think about it in a different fashion, how you're going to get in on that turkey.
Mm-hmm.
But people hunt certain deer, right? It's a little harder to hunt a certain turkey. But I swear I shot my biggest bird I ever did last year, and I reaped him. You guys are familiar with that reaping technique.
Mm-hmm.
You use a decoy and you push in on him instead of him waiting for you or coming to you. And I'd had this bird in the same trees for the last 2 years, you know. And finally he was out. He'd fly down. You know, I always call it, telescoping or periscoping. He just had to pop up, look up the field, like it, maybe not, and then he'd duck back down, but he'd never shut up either. He'd gobble us the whole entire time. But then he'd always go across the creek and come up in these plowed fields on the other side and strut. And then that was off the property line, so I couldn't get him over there. Well, last year it just happened to work out that it was like 9 o'clock. It was like 6th season. You know, he's heading up. I'm going out with this decoy, and that's it. I'm going to get in on this bird. And I showed him the decoy once at about 100, and a hen started coming my way, and he cut her off. As soon as she saw it, he just got right between me and pushed her back. Well, then I cut the distance. Luckily, I had a deep creek bottom I could sneak through where he couldn't see me. But then I cut the distance again by another 50, 60 yards, and now I'm in his wheelhouse. So I put the decoy out in the field edge, and he saw that immediately, and I could just see him coming through the brush. And then here he comes, and I got it. It's part of the footage that we use here. I got it on my Tacticam, the action camera that can mount directly to the barrel of the gun. But the 27 pounds, I think, almost
nice.
11-inch.
6th season.
That's big bird.
He was huge, and that's why back to the point of the story is you can't hunt. You don't think you're hunting a same turkey every single year, but not too many turkeys get to be 27 pounds.
No.
So this was, and his spurs were over 1 inch. So if you really can base their age off the spur length and all that kind of stuff,
it's pretty good indicator.
He's a mature bird for sure. And to fool him like that, it was. I was like a kid at a candy store. It was the best day of my life, But it's just they're so frustrating at times, but then they're so rewarding at times as well. Yep. You look at how many times have you guys both mentioned your mentors, right?
Yep.
How many times have you taken a mentor out and you're done right away, and then now what do you do?
Yeah.
When you go back to mentor for lunch, now I'm like, now I got to kill like 5 hours before.
Anybody else need help?
yeah.
Really.
Anybody, I can do a turkey drive for you if you need me to.
The mentored hunts are special hunts, and I have done a fair number of them. And the last probably 10 years I've been working with a group out of Clintonville, and they tie themselves with USSA, United Special Sportsmen's Alliance, out of Wausau, I believe, with Bridget. And special needs or kids is what they tend to bring, not necessarily any type of disability, but maybe they're introverted, autism, whatever. Parents have been put in jail, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the type of kids I've been working with for the last 10 years, and I've had some really special ones. I had, a few years ago, I had one young man that I ran into a year ago. He's going to Marquette University now, but he's legally blind. He could only see shapes at about 20 yards. So I set the decoy at 20 yards. And I managed to bring 2 toms in, and with the help of his dad and everybody helping him line up. Can you see the shapes? Yes. Can you see any red? Kind of a little bit. Well, you put the bead on the red.
Right.
And he did the deed, and we harvested a bird, and between him, me, and the dad, I don't know who was more excited.
Right.
Probably me. I don't know. That's just the way things happen, you know.
Yep.
But it was really neat, and and I had another kid one time that if I'm taking too much time.
No, continue.
I had another kid one time up by Suring, and 12-year-old, just finished hunter ed, and wanted to try turkey hunting. His dad family was deer hunters, but he wanted to try turkey hunting. So I'm in a blind with him and get decoy out again. I managed to bring 2 toms in, and I always set a decoy so I have a range point for these kids, so I know exactly where they are, you know. And I'm watching the gun barrel, and it's doing not quite figure eights, but loop-de-loops, you know. So I kind of stick my hand over there and give him a little steady, and I said, just settle down and put the bead right where the feathers stop and the red starts. Just put the bead right there. And he's, okay. And I'm looking, and the gun steadied out pretty good. And I said, are you on him? And he goes, yep. Take him. Bird dumps over. I'm busting out of the blind. I get out to the bird. Well, where's my hunter? And he's sitting back, and he's looking at me. Get out here.
Yeah, right.
So he comes running out there, and I'm still, you know, shaking and trembling. And he looks at me, and he goes, I think you're shaking more than I am. And I looked at him, and I said, and when I stop, I won't be doing this anymore.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because every mentored hunt I've done, I think I've been more excited than the person I was mentoring when they got a turkey. Really, I mean, my nephew, I got him a few, and the latest one I did was a couple of years ago in Texas. We did an adult mentored hunt.
Oh, awesome!
With a lady from NWTF. She just never hunted before. We went down there, and she missed a bird the first day. Did everything right, just missed the turkey.
Happens.
And second day we got on these 2 gobblers in this little flat. And we really had to work our way up there, and it was kind of a close quarters encounter, you know, where all of a sudden the heads pop up, and there they are, and I could see them, but she couldn't. And she could finally see him, and she shot the bird. And I jumped up and ran out there, and this really nice gobbler, but it had 3 melanistic, totally black primary wing feathers on each side.
Wow.
So just like a 1 in a million turkey. And I'm jumping around and yelling, and she's like, oh, this is great. You know, I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is awesome.
Right.
And I think she was laughing at me just because I was so fired up about that hunt and about the turkey she had killed, you know. I mean,
did you convince her to do a full body mount then?
I did. I think it's still at the taxidermist. I think she was going to get it done and have it put down at NWTF headquarters in Edgefield, South Carolina.
Awesome.
So,
Museum.
really cool bird.
Yep.
So.
I had, to continue on the mentor fashion of it. I mean, we got these mentor hunts coming up, so it's fresh on everybody's brain. We're excited about it. And the thing, too, about it is, I think just like these kids don't understand, or these new hunters just don't understand the amount of work that can go into killing these turkeys. And it's, just like some younger kids, they get a little dejected, or, when you call a bird in and they leave. I had one morning where hadn't scouted this field at all, put a blind up the night before. We owl hooted, didn't hear anything. So we went to the blind the next morning. We were all set up, and it was what do they call it? Pink light or whatever. It wasn't fully light out, but it's like you're at the point where like I'm 10 minutes behind schedule.
I'm late.
Yep.
I'm late.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm putting the decoys out, and birds start pitching out of the tree.
Hey, you're late.
And I'm like, oh no, this is not a good sign. So we crawl back in the blind, and I'm like, all right, this is gonna go really, really bad, or you might get lucky and we might get one, but he's probably not gonna be in those trees, So we get set up, and we're kind of chit chatting, and all of a sudden a bird gobbles from the exact same trees that these turkeys pitch out of. And I'm like, okay, here's the deal. That's good, but he probably knows we're here. And he's gonna fly down and go the other way, or he's just not gonna fly down at all and stay up there as long as he can. So I do a couple calls and a little soft. Now it's light enough where we can start seeing, and we can look, and there he is. You can see him on the roost. Well, what does that bird do? He flies down. I hit the call a couple times. He turns, walks right at us. And I'm like, no way, this never happens. If I was hunting by myself, everything I explained to this kid would have happened. You would have pitched out and we wouldn't be able to see him running fast enough. There would have been dirt chunks. So he comes right in. He's coming on a beeline, and I had a full strut tom out at the time. And I said, okay, as soon as he gets in behind the fan, get the gun ready, and as soon as he clears the fan, hammer down on him. So sure enough, he does everything right. Clears the fan. I'm like, okay, shoot him. And I got this all on videotape. Boom, shoots, bird flops down, and I'm just jumping for joy. I'm ecstatic, I turn and I look, and I look and expect to look at the kid eye to eye right here, and he's not there. He's on the bottom of the blind. The recoil dumped him off the back of his chair. And I turn, I'm like, oh, my God, are you all right? He's like, oh, did I get him? I'm like, yeah. So then we peel out of the blind and everything like that. But he was a little nervous with the day before, like a couple days before we had shot this. Somebody had borrowed us. I think it was a TC Encore that you could put the shotgun barrel on.
Okay.
A really nice gun, but he wasn't a big fan of it. But I didn't have a gun for him to borrow at the time. So he wasn't really too certain about shooting this 12 gauge, so he did it. But I'll never forget that day. I turned and looked, and he's laying on the bottom of the floor. So then we hauled out, and the funny thing about that bird is he was, a mature tom, but his wing was gone. Or I'm sorry, his tail fan was like gone. It was like in bits and pieces. And I said, dude, you shot the fan off. He's like, and I thought about it after. That bird never strutted. So my thought process is we had a late winter that year. Maybe like part of it froze off, or he nearly escaped like a turkey or a coyote or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was the craziest fan. Like there was like feathers here and there on the tail fan, but it was such an awesome hunt. And then again, we're done. It's 7:00 in the morning. People are probably just getting into their birds, and we're already tagged out, heading back to breakfast or something like that.
Yeah, and you almost want the hunts to go a little longer with the kid. I mean, it's great when it happens that way, but I know my nephew, I took him, the first 2 times I took him, we had a turkey within like the first hour, So, I mean, I heard him talking to his buddies. He's like, well, I've never gone turkey hunting. I never got a turkey, or not gotten a turkey. I'm like, you just wait.
Yes, you just wait.
It will happen. Yeah. It will happen.
And that's part of the, I know other states do it, and you guys have hunted other states. I've only been lucky enough to hunt Missouri for turkeys, but, they're still at that 1 o'clock deadline. Like, you have to be done hunting by 1 o'clock.
Register it by 2.
Yep. I think that's part of the reason that turkey hunting at time can be so frustrating is because we know we have a deadline, right? Mm-hmm. We have a week now, luckily, to get it done, but everything is a time frame. Like you take vacation days to turkey hunt, but you don't take them for deer hunting because the deer hunting season is so much longer. There's so much added more pressure. And people might laugh at that when I say that, but you put a lot more pressure on yourself to get a bird.
On yourself.
Yeah, because of the time restraints. What if the season were ever to go where they just open it up? How do you think that would be beneficial for anybody? Where okay, it starts May 1st or something like that, like other states do, and then have you hunted in other states where it is open like that?
Oh yeah, big time. I don't like it, and I'll tell you why. Because in Wisconsin, the turkey permits per season are basically set to avoid excess hunting pressure. It's to avoid hunter conflict.
Hunter quality.
Yeah.
Quality is
okay.
important.
Right.
Yep.
If you would, states like New York and PA that have a general opener, I mean, their opening day can kind of resemble the opening day of our gun season.
Okay.
Which I would not want to participate in. So I really like it now how they divvy it up. I mean, the way we have it now, there's so much opportunity to get multiple tags, multiple time periods. Like say you draw a second period tag and the weather's horrible. There's really no pressure because you can easily buy a third period and all the periods after that in many of the zones,
Right.
So you don't have that overriding pressure like back in the day where I drew third period. I have 5 days to get it done. I can hunt till noon. I mean, that's, like you said, you put that pressure on yourself because you have those deadlines. You get 3 days of rain or whatever, and you really, you kind of start sweating it.
Right.
And there are states out there that have taken a combination type approach that I think is a pretty good system too. Like I'm considering hunting in Minnesota this year. In the first 2 seasons, you have to apply and get a tag. There are quota hunts. There's the third period you can buy over the counter, and that's good for a week. And then they have what they call their open period after that, and you can buy a tag, and you can hunt till it's May something.
Okay.
But I mean, it starts.
I think the 31st.
And I think it goes to the end of the month. But they've split it into 4. The first 2 are only a week. The third is only a week. But that third is like an open that you can just buy over the counter.
Yep.
The first 2 are quota. Michigan does something similar. They have what they call a general license that you can buy, and it's good for the whole month, basically, whole month of May. But they have also quota hunts, so specific dates you apply for.
Okay.
So like I said, there's some hybrids out there that work well in those states. But I agree with Brian. The way it is, it spreads the hunters out.
Yep.
Nobody goes and you hear the argument that people all have a different spot to hunt. Well, that may be true, but if somebody's hunting public land, you can get a lot of pressure.
Yep.
And by spreading the hunters out, and everybody can have a quality hunt. There's some great turkey hunting in the 5th and 6th periods. Trust me.
I've actually grown more fond of the later season just because we run into situations like we got right now.
Weather in the first couple periods can be a coin toss. I mean, and I don't know. The years ago when they had the noon closing, it's great for a nap. Trout season usually opened up, so you go trout fishing for a while.
Right.
Or if it was just far enough into May, the morel mushrooms are out.
Oh, that is,
So I mean, now you got to fit it into your hunting schedule. Back then, it laid out perfectly.
You stop and
you had to stop at noon. You moved on to the next activity.
Yeah, that is very true. And there's so many other things, that we can incorporate with it. But, like shed hunting starting right now. There's a lot of times you can use this. It's a dual purpose. Turkey hunting is such a great thing because morels, trout, and plus, it allows you to do some better deer scouting as well. You get some of these early seasons hunts, you can still see trails, you can still see bedding areas and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I tend to try to draw for the third and beyond because the hunting pressure seems to dip down a little bit, especially after 4th season. I hunt zone 3. I don't know if you guys are hunting that same zone. 3.
Yeah.
And that's one of the bigger zones.
A lot of tags.
A lot of tags available. 4th, 5th, and 6th never really sell out. I think 3rd will sell out fast. And if anybody's needs to remember,
March 18th.
March 18th is zone 1. Thank you very much, Greg. That's where I was just going to go with that. March 18th is the first day. But those what is it? Zone 1 and zone 2 go like fast.
2 goes phenomenally
2 goes
fast.
quick. Yeah, 1's kind of like 3. It kind of mirrors that. They never really. 4th might sell out eventually, but 5th and 6th never sell out.
You go down and buy a tag a day.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is nice. We have some guys that do that. They'll buy a tag almost every other day. I'm like, how many turkeys are you killing? I think the one guy said he killed like 18 turkeys.
We were talking about that a little. We were talking about that a little bit before we started today. That some people kill that many, and it's great to kill one, but I like the game.
Yeah, it's the fun part about it.
And I hunted in zone 3 last year, period 5, and was lucky enough to get a bird. But again, back to your point back a while, that the vegetation at that time can throw your game off. I mean, you can't always know exactly where a bird is, and this one kind of fooled me a little bit, but I finally figured out where he was, and he managed to come in. But
it can kind of hurt you, but it also can benefit you too because
you can move easier.
You can move a little bit easier. Again, like to keep telling stories. I had one where I was running a little bit late. Seems like it's my common theme. 5 to 10 minutes is always the barrier, but there was enough foliage on the trees that it allowed me to sneak right into my my setup area, and that bird still came down. But I think if it would have been a little more wide open, he would have busted me like that. So the tactics for the late season, especially if they continued to end it at 1 o'clock, there would have been a lot of turkeys that would have got away, like you were saying, because that late season period, them birds are more active. They're out searching. They're out searching. Them hens go to the nest, and they're out searching in that noon time, 1, 2, 3 o'clock before they start, ganging up before they fly up. I've killed a lot of birds between noon and 2 o'clock, and it's such a good time to be out there. And it's a better time to run a gun, in my thoughts. I don't know where your guys' thoughts are as well.
Absolutely. You get, like you said, those birds that are actually searching. They haven't had a hen come to them in a while, and they're fired up and ready to go. And the great part about that late morning, afternoon hunting, you get one to gobble. He's usually serious about it. In the morning you get a bunch to gobble, and they might be on the next ridge the next time he gobbles. You fire one up in the afternoon, and you better sit down on them usually.
As I agree with Brian, you get one after 10 o'clock. Well, where's my tag?
Right, right.
Yep.
I think I was watching a.
Don't blow it.
yeah, don't mess up. But hey, this bird wants to die.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like I was gonna say is I think I was watching like a Michael Wydell hunting show, and that guy kills a pile of turkeys every single year. But he said you strike a bird after 10 o'clock, he's ready to ride in the back of a truck because
Wants to go for a ride.
he wants to go for a ride. There are. So, I mean, if anybody hasn't put any efforts into that afternoon style hunting, you need to. Plus, you know, the temps warm up a little bit. If you got your blind set up, like you said, it's a real good time to catch a couple naps, man. Those blinds could get like 80, 90 degrees in there.
Oh, yeah.
Stripping down.
Yeah. It does. It's like turkeys, they do it. You know, we always say after Thanksgiving you get the tryptophan nap. Turkeys will do that for you when you're hunting them as well.
Don't matter with the tryptophan, you just.
Yep. Yeah. So, we got a bunch more people joining in, so that's awesome. So remember, if anybody's got any questions, throw them down here. Or anybody wants to, to say hi to these guys, they're here. But so different states, obviously, there's different subspecies in different states. Is the eastern, in your guys' opinion, one of the harder birds to kill?
It is the hardest, my opinion. Yeah, and I mean,
Totally agree.
Yep, and to me, a lot of it has to do with hunting pressure. I mean, the hardest turkeys in the world are Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, northern Florida,
Georgia.
Yeah, those hard-hunted southern easterns, and the birds up here are not quite that tough, but they're still eastern turkeys, and they will still make a fool of you. You go out to places like Kansas, Nebraska, they have a lot of turkeys. They just don't have the hunting pressure that we have here. I mean, those turkeys are generally more willing to gobble, more willing to come long distances to a call. Same with Texas, Oklahoma, places like that. They're just hunter-friendlier turkeys, I guess, you know. I mean, but eastern turkeys, anywhere you go, and you're in for a dogfight usually.
I agree. Merriam's, I think, have a tendency to they'll gobble from a long ways away, but they'll come from a long ways away.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. In my mind.
They will. Yep, they will. Rios, too. I've had some Rios that you had to stop calling and listen. I'm pretty sure you heard one. And within 5 minutes, he's 25 yards off your gun barrel right there looking at you.
No way.
Yeah, Merriam's too. Yeah.
I've had a Rio come close to probably, it was over a quarter of a mile, I know. Probably somewhere between a quarter and a half. I heard that first gobble, and I thought, well, he's up on that road. That's where the guy dropped me off to come down into here, And then, like you said, 15, 20 minutes later, what's that?
Right.
There he is.
There he is. Yeah.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah. To me, the cool part about hunting out west or that open country is that, all the same tactics work, but it's just such wide open landscape. You really have to try to get ahead of birds,
Okay.
There's a lot more visual element where you're trying to see birds at a distance, figure out where they're traveling, use the terrain to get around on them. And that's really the part I enjoy about out there.
Yeah.
You're going to hear a lot of gobbling. A lot of times, like you said, they will come from a long ways. Sometimes they have a destination in mind. They're just going to walk there,
That's where they're
So
going.
you if they're hopping ridges, you kind of figure out where they're going and use terrain to get around on. That's kind of the chess game out there in Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas.
Man, that's one thing that I've never really thought about is trying to hunt birds in like a hilly condition or a mountainous condition. Like you guys have hunted in southern states where like Virginia and stuff like that. There's some of the rolling terrain down there, and then you go out west and there's some of that rolling terrain as well.
Oh, even like Brian down Prairie du Chien area, and I hunt down around Spring Green. That's rolling territory. And
Okay.
The ridges, they'll be on one ridge or another, and you think you can make a move? I've bumped a lot of birds.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that terrain is great because it kind of lets you maneuver. But like you said, you get that with a big ravine, big coulee in between you and that bird. And you might be 150 yards from him, but it's like, all right, how do we get to him
there?
now? I mean, because you got to, you don't want to go straight down and straight up at him. So you have to figure out how to get around on him and get on his territory. And how long is that going to take? How far back do you have to walk in the vegetation so you don't get busted?
Circle back around.
Usually quite a ways. I mean, because it's amazing how far they can see in that stuff. Southeastern Minnesota is the same kind of country, and I've hunted there a lot, and it's amazing how many turkeys I've bumped at a distance in that big country. You hear bird up on a bluff top. It's like, okay, well, I'll try to go right at him. You get up there, and it's like, I got to back off and move around him, and it takes you a half hour to get around on him and get on that oak flat with him, and then you get in there, and he's silent. It's like, I know I bumped that turkey. I mean, it just
Right.
Well, you don't know whether. When you're moving, you don't know if he's moving.
Right.
Unless every now and then you throw out a call, but then you risk the chance of telling him exactly where you are.
That's right.
Yeah, that
You're
is
gonna
true.
meet in the middle.
And you're going to meet in the middle, and
Yep.
that happens.
Yep.
Right. So, can you guys think of? I know I'm putting you both on the spot. I want a best hunt scenario for you guys, or one of the best hunts you've had, and let's go with right along with that. Like, what's a worst hunt you've ever had or been a part of that? Whether the gun didn't fire or just I don't know. Just I'm asking just a good question here. I'm kind of curious.
Well, I'll start it if I've.
Yep.
Every hunt to me is I remember. Or
Yep.
But there's certain ones you remember most, and I'll share that in a minute. But I've had last year I had a hunt with my oldest son. He was back in the States. He lived out of States for a while, and we were out together, and I was doing most of the calling, and we had a bird coming, and he's on the opposite ridge again, but I hear him. He's coming down. He's just about to the open field, and I tell my son, I know he's making it to the edge, and he should come across to us. We shouldn't have an issue because we were kind of around the corner. He should come right out through here. And all of a sudden he goes quiet, and I thought, that's odd. I've had this bird going for a half an hour.
Right? Is there
And he
another
just-
electric fence in the way?
I knew this territory because it's on our farm. So
Yep.
I knew it.
Yep.
And all of a sudden my son pokes me and he goes, look out by the road. And I look out by the road and there's a coyote
Oh.
prowling the ditch line.
Yep.
And he come down far enough in the field that I know that Tom saw him and gone.
Gone.
And then
Yep.
pretty soon he's gobbling up on our ridge, but he's not in coming mood anymore
Right.
because
No,
he's already
right.
been bumped by this
Yeah.
coyote.
That
Yeah.
changed his mood. Right
That changed
there,
his
yeah.
mood, but he's still out and interested. But so we worked him for a while, but we could never get him to come after that. And about 6 years ago, I had a young kid out and mentored hunt, learned hunt, and I got him in the blind. And there's a bunch of birds come out into the field about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I count 7 different gobblers. There's one kind of trailing, so I start working him. I'm figuring if I got a chance at any bird, and I got 5 decoys out. And I thought if I can get him to look, I can get him to come.
Right.
Well, he looks, he starts to come. I explain to this young man that here's the game. This is what we're gonna do. I'll just keep pumping him. I'll just keep feeding him crumbs.
Right.
He's
Right.
coming. Well, he gets to about 50 yards. All of a sudden, turns and runs. And what the heck? And all of a sudden, here comes a fox. Out of this little, there's a couple little swales. And all of a sudden, this fox comes up. He heard me calling, and he was between my decoys and this Tom that's coming. And that Tom spotted that red fox. And gone. So I said to the young kid, and I said, I've been busted a lot of times, and I've had things happen, but that's the first time for a fox.
Right.
I've had an eagle hit my decoy.
No way.
and I've had lots of things happen, but that's the first time for a fox. Coyotes are good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
they're bigger, and a fox usually is not a big threat to a mature tom, but from the bird's perspective, it's still a predator. So
Right.
it's gone.
So in a scenario like that, before we get to Brian's stories, if a coyote comes in, is a coyote fair game, or do you guys let it run? I mean, you think of the predation that a coyote does to turkeys. Do you guys pull the trigger on that, or do you let them go?
I know, like a lot of guys, when doesn't matter what they're hunting, when they see a coyote, it turns into a coyote hunt. But I'm usually so focused in spring turkey hunting. I'm just like, yeah, I kind of want to shoot you, but I'm just gonna blow this off and go find another turkey.
Right.
I mean,
I'm with Brian. I like to watch. Okay, I like the visual.
Yes.
And during deer season, when I'm carrying a rifle, if I see a coyote,
Yeah, for sure.
I'll take it. But spring turkey hunt's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the
yeah.
pelt's not going to be as nice
Nah,
that
right,
time of year
right,
and everything
yeah.
like that. I mean, you want to get as much of that resource as you can.
No.
But on the flip side of that,
On a number of years ago, I was sitting up down by Spring Green, and I was on a field, and there was kind of a break in front of me, and right on the edge of that break, I put the old feather fix back into feather flicks.
yeah.
The foam
The fold 'em-
Oh,
the
yeah.
foamies,
Yeah,
the
and
foamies that go in the backpack.
spin in the wind.
yeah.
Well, I had one of those out in front of me about 20 yards. It was right at the break of the hill. And I look out across the pasture there in the field I'm on, and comes out of the woods. Here comes a coyote. And it sits down, and it's surveying this valley, Pretty soon it looks like it's looking at my decoy. All of a sudden it goes into slink mode, and he's coming down through the valley, and I'm watching. and I'm watching. All of a sudden, I see 2 ears and the tip of a nose right behind my decoy. And I'm watching. Again, the show is more important than the shooting part. You know, I don't even have my gun or safety up. I said, this is cool, right? He gets to within about 5 feet of my decoy, and I can see the haunches and everything starting to move.
Up.
Grabs the feather flex right in his mouth, pulls it off the stake, runs about 3 feet, shakes his head, spits it out. I only wish I would have had a camera.
Yes,
because it was awesome.
That's a cool story. That's cool.
And I didn't shoot. Just
yep. You didn't get a coyote or
I didn't get
a
a coyote or a
turkey.
turkey. Nope, but I laughed.
Yeah, you would.
And had my mother-in-law sewed the turkey up for me. Stitched it up.
Again, I'm going to interrupt here. We have a gentleman that asks, Aaron wants to know, do you guys prefer shooting turkeys with a bow or a gun? He drew a first season period and was thinking about using his bow.
Well, I'm a gun hunter for turkeys. I know a lot of folks who have done quite a bit of bow hunting for turkeys and had pretty good success too. You know, obviously with the pop-up blinds today and the archery equipment, it's a lot easier than back in the old day trying to draw on a gobbler in the wide open. Those blinds allow you to get away with so much more. So, and I'm no expert on the deal, but my bow hunting friends tell me they pretty much just stick with their deer setups and use the same setup they would for whitetails. Decoys are obviously important, you know, to keep that bird's attention there, especially a Jake decoy. I like Jake or a gobbler decoy to kind of focus that bird's attention right there. And, you know, as long as you're practiced with your equipment and can, you know, shoot that tight group at 20 to 30 yards or whatever your maximum effective range is, have at it, you know. I think it's a cool sport.
Totally agree with Brian. I've got a couple friends that strictly bow hunt anymore.
Right.
And he's mentioned a couple of things. The blind is so important to get that draw.
Yep.
And your decoy positioning, you know, you set them so you have range markers.
Yep.
And a Tom or a Jake has a tendency to bring the bird face to face, and that gives you a shot opportunity.
Yep.
And he said he's hunting first period.
He said he had first period as well.
That's, you know, the weather, that's probably the early seasons are probably prime time with the bow.
For the bow,
because they're more receptive to decoys as a rule.
Yep.
The turkeys are most receptive to decoys real early or real late.
Yep.
So you keep that in mind, especially if you're bow hunting, because your range is limited. I agree with Brian 100%. Know your shooting distance, your range. If you're only comfortable at 20, set your decoys at 15, 18 yards. When they're there, take a shot. If you're good at 30, go ahead and push them out a little bit. But, you know, at much more than 30 unless you're a really good shot. And I know some people that are. But
Oh, phenomenal,
Yep.
Well, and I got while we're on the topic, I got one of these new, this is the new Avian X, the HDR. I'm going to kind of put it right here. So can we see that, Zach? I don't mean to cut Brian off, but I mean, Brian, you're still here. I'm trying to move this around, but I mean, like, so shot placement on a turkey with a bow. You know, obviously, if you guys want to get into that a little bit, there's a couple different shots.
I've got this side to me, so I'll point. A lot of people aim right at the beard, put it above it, below it, because you're going to hit the vitals. The vitals are right behind it, and you're on the other side. You show them the.
Yeah, there's a little bit of debate between bow hunters. You know, a lot of guys always talk about aiming for that wing joint right there. You know, if you don't have the wing in the way, and a turkey's guts, I mean, up here is all that big, all that breast meat.
The breast meat.
It's so thick. His guts are back here by his legs, and honestly, some guys will aim for the joint of the leg, somewhere between that wing joint and the joint of the leg.
Yep.
You know, the hard part about shooting a turkey with a bow sometimes is recovering that turkey. You can make a lethal shot, but I mean, if he still has his legs, and can run, or if he gets his wings and can sail, they don't leave much blood at all. That's the tough part. You really want to anchor him so he drops and flops right there.
To Brian's point about anchoring, a lot of guys say the wing butt, which would put it up in this area.
Well, you think of it like a shoulder of a deer.
Correct.
You know, where the wing meets the body is usually, you take out, first of all, his wings.
And ability to fly.
Right.
And the vitals are kind of right there and back to the back. Like Brian says, it's in this area.
Yep.
And then the other one that I hear about all the time is a Texas heart shot.
Shot. Right.
When that fan is up, you shoot at the base.
There's a bullseye right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
the base of the fan, just
Yep.
Pope's nose.
It literally is. What we like to call the poop chute is also a good spot to throw an arrow. So
That's right. You know it's going to hit the vitals after that.
Yep.
So-
And if a guy's good enough, there's always the headshot.
the headshot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of broadheads on the market that, are specified for taking the headshot. We have quite a few guys that like the headshot option because if you miss, that bird is just fine.
Right.
You can wound one, maybe in a point of, you only get a couple of feathers on it, but even if it goes through nothing but breast meat, you run the risk of infection. That turkey's just not going to be the same. Maybe they'll heal up from it, but I like what you guys are saying. I like the wing area. Aim for that. Now, they used to say in the day, shoot through the drumsticks. Take out that landing gear, the running gear, all that kind of stuff. But there was, I think, the double bow guys always said, they were big bow hunters. They always said, high they die, low they go. Because if you look at a diagram of a turkey vital, most of them are like this way.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is up higher in the bird. So if you want to, use that wing joint as kind of a reference point, kind of like how this Avian X has, get it up in this region right here, and you should do pretty good damage.
To Brian's point, the thickest part of the bird is the breast.
Right.
Both sides.
Yep.
And even if you look at the decoy, it does come in at the beard.
Yep.
So if you have that shot,
That
front
frontal
on
shot.
shot,
Yep. Take
just
them right
aim
here.
for the beard.
Yeah.
Now with the shotgun, do you guys shoot birds in full strut, or do you not?
Try not to.
I've done it. I don't like to.
I
Right.
I'd
Just because you run the risk of.
Yeah, sometimes you can't avoid it. Either they won't pop out of it, or you just have a fleeting instant where you have to shoot right then.
Yep.
And I've done it. I shot one last year in strut, and I really shouldn't have, and I kind of kicked myself for doing it.
Yep.
I think I just got excited, and I kind of kicked myself the whole way home. I should have just clucked and had him raise his head like that.
Yep.
It's a better shot for one thing. I mean, you have so much more to shoot at there instead of shooting at that little
he's in
target
tight.
right there. His neck's all
Yep.
compressed. You're losing half your target area. I mean, because depending how high or low your pattern goes, I mean, you want to catch a lot of those vertebrae in the spine, and put pellets in that as well as the head.
Right.
Well, I guess that was the point before too, where the feathers end and the red starts.
Yep. Right here. I'll give you. That's the.
I mean, this is a prime aiming point, especially if you're using a red dot or
Yep.
a scope or even double bead or true glow, whatever you're using. I mean, by here, because you spread your pattern, and if this is your center point and you know how your gun patterns, and Brian is exactly right. It isn't how many, it's how many you put in the skull and in the vertebrae.
Right.
Those are the killing BBs.
Those are the killing shots.
And a magic BB will do the job.
Right. Just one. Just one. Yep. Right in that area. Well, and this is the head that goes for this decoy. And I mean, like you said, when this thing is on there, look how much more of a
much target you have.
look how much
Right.
more. And the other thing too is you're not running the risk of putting BBs in that meat area.
Right.
That
Exactly.
frontal shot on a full strut bird, not only do you run the risk of messing up the beautiful fan that you're trying to get for that target, but the portion you really want to eat is right here.
Right there.
And you don't want to be picking BBs out of there. So
No, how many times have you shot a turkey, even when you shoot him right, and there's a flyer or two that's in the
It's in
breast
breast.
meat, and it's
You're
always
right.
just stuck there on the flesh.
Flesh.
It didn't penetrate
right.
Under the
in
skin.
harmony vitals.
Just under the skin.
Yeah, so you think about how much mass is there, that pellet stopping ability of that breast meat. I'd want to shoot as much as the head and
They're
neck
like
as possible.
bowling balls. I mean,
They
these things. I've had arrows, or not my arrows, but I've seen arrows hit and bounce kind of right off.
Well, the other thing is too, the thickest part of the feathers are in the breast also,
Right.
because they're overlaid, so they're heavy, and that's where the meat's thickest. That's the most protection for the vitals, plus the extra. And guys taking 40, 50-yard shot, I've heard the BB rattle before. What are you doing shooting?
Yeah.
Because you hear it, and they fall off. You can hear them
Yeah,
when they hit
yeah.
if they're
Right.
taking that type of shot.
Right. Well, and then just kind of wrap up the archery talk too. The other shot, as well as the Texas heart shot, the walking away bird is a good shot too. You get into their vitals are basically right underneath this area here. So you put one kind of running up the back door here. You're going to get into the vitals. And that bird can't see you draw.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess that's just what I'd urge anyone who's going to bow hunt to do is really study, and they have a lot of diagrams available. Study that turkey anatomy, learn where the vitals are, and kind of look at good shots from many angles, and then just work at being able to put that arrow where you need to
want
at
it.
20, 30
Exactly.
yards, wherever.
To your point, that's the spine shot.
Yep.
For all intents and purposes, you draw your line from the top of the head right down to
straight
the
down.
center of the tail. And if you can put it on that line, you'll drop the bird.
Yep.
But you have to have a lot of confidence in your own
Yes.
shooting.
Yep.
Me, I would I'd prefer a wing butt shot if I was going to try a bull.
Yep. The broadside shot, a lot
Yeah.
more, a lot more room for you place an arrow in the right area. But it is fun. And then the other thing, too, is the crossbows. I mean, there's a lot of powerful crossbows on the market, and you can use those just the same. And the accuracy of the scope on the crossbow maybe is going to allow you to take more of a headshot if you are archery hunting. But like you said, there's a lot of good shooters out there. It just basically comes down to study your turkey anatomy.
Exactly what Brian
Study
said.
that, and then practice at it.
Exactly.
And then, but you got to stick to it as well. If you know that I'm only shooting a turkey at 20 yards, well, don't be taking a
30-yard
35-yard shot.
Exactly.
It just
know your limitations.
Know your limitations. And with a shotgun as well.
As well, yeah.
I mean,
that's what I said. I've seen guys take a 40-yard shot, and I hear the BBs rattle off. And
right.
And
So, yeah, this is an awesome decoy. We just got these in. It's for
Avians
sale, so
are
I just got to
awesome.
throw that sales
They
pitch
are
in there.
great decoys.
Avians
I
are
love
awesome.
the Avian X's.
Yeah.
I like you were talking about having 4 or 5 decoys. I'm sure you do the same. I got more decoys than most
I have
goose
trouble
hunters got.
I have
Yeah.
trouble carrying them out.
Right.
Yeah.
To your, if you get time for another story,
Yeah,
I
man,
got
tell
a pile
it,
of them.
tell it,
Okay,
yeah.
I got some pictures I'll show you afterwards too. But this goes back to a learn to hunt thing, and it started 3 years ago. Well, be 4 years this spring, but started 4 years ago. Signed this young man that he had a brain tumor, and he had it removed, and he had some steadying issues and speaking issues. He had to cut part of his job. Long story short, the cancer was removed. He was doing fine.
Yep.
And I was signed as his mentor 4 years ago now, coming up this spring. But I took him out, and we always do a patterning clinic, and we always go through a safety, and we always go through the training part of it. And I told his mother that he doesn't like guns.
Oh.
She goes, I don't think so, and I said, I don't know. He's shot a few times, and I said, well, was he shot? And he said, well, I think he shot his Gramps 22 a couple times. I said, okay. Well, we're standing at the range, and a couple kids are shooting. He keeps moving farther back, and I thought, this ain't gonna work.
Right.
But let's try it, So I finally convinced him, and then with his mother's help, to take a shot, and he clammed up. And I was convinced he wasn't going out the next morning
Okay.
because he didn't want anything to do with the gun in my mind. But
Yep.
I got over there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he was ready to go. He wanted to go. So we set the gun up. We had on a tripod, a dead man on Carlson dead man,
Oh, okay.
and
Yep.
set up and had a scope on it, and it's all good. And weather wasn't great, really windy. Didn't get an opportunity, and I was still not convinced he was even going to shoot this gun. Right. And we had a semi-auto to reduce the recoil and
Yep.
everything. And it was mounted, had a extra pad
Oh,
on the
geez,
shoulder.
yeah.
I mean, I tried to do everything I
Everything
possibly
you-
could.
That's awesome.
Okay. And, well, mid-afternoon on Saturday, he says, can I shoot the gun? Well, yeah. So just don't shoot my decoy. So I got somebody helping me with him, and I said, I got a water bottle. I'll go set the water bottle out there. Let's see if you can hit the water bottle. I'll just put it off to the side of the decoy. And so he takes the shot, and in a blind, shotgun rings.
Yep.
And he goes into cringe mode. And I thought, what did
Yep.
I do?
Right.
So anyway, then he was done. Wanted to quit for the day. That's fine. And then he didn't want to go out the next morning. So I said to one of the guys that helped with this group, the specials kids there, can we put him in a crossbow? And don't make any noise. There's no
Yeah.
recoil.
Yep.
Well, that's a heck of a thought,
Right.
because these kids can come back until they get a bird, and they keep with the same mentor. So that was my suggestion. So next year he comes back, get him in a crossbow. He's hitting the target at 25, 30 yards. Hey, we got a chance.
Yeah.
And so we get all set up, got the decoys out there, and I don't know, it was that first morning at about 9, 10 o'clock. I'm looking across the field, and there's 5 hens. There's 3 toms.
Oh, nice.
So I start pumping them, and I said, and they turn, and they're leaving the 5 hens they're with. They're coming.
Right on.
And I have an avian full strut out.
Yep.
And I got an avian 3/4 strut over here and 2 hens off to the backside. Well, that dominant tom of the 3, he's keyed right in on that strutter. So I said to the Dominic, the hunter, and then I had another person helping me, and we had a phone set up on the scope.
Oh.
So that my assistant mentor could help him line it up by looking at the phone screen about like that.
Yep.
And get those crosshairs on it. And I said that bird's going to come up and he's going to turn, and he's either going to stop and be facing right at us, or he's going to turn to look right at that gobbler. And he come up and he stopped and he raised up, and I said, put it on the beard and take your shot. I'm whispering, and this bird standing there waiting for it, And so I'm looking, Sawyer, you good? You good? Dominic, you ready? And he goes, yeah, I take him. And I have the decoy at exactly 20 yards.
Right.
And I watch this arrow go, whoosh, and it comes right flying up out of the back of it. Well, what happened? And I watched when he shot, and he kind of jerked the trigger, so I assumed he pulled a little bit. Well, he went, and I saw, we went out and looked, and there's two pieces of tail feather out there. And I'm looking, there's no blood, and my only assumption is he hit the breastbone. And it angled, followed the breastbone right out off your, like on your decoy there, right out through the fan, and took the two center feathers out. So he trots off, So I think, wow. But his two toadies come back, and they're squaring over, they're looking at the hens because the boss is gone, right? And they get over there, and we don't have a clean shot, and I talked them out of taking a shot. And they had come back, and they had come right next to the blind. I could hear them walking, and they went right out to the hens. Then all of a sudden, I can hear a spitting and drumming. Thought, well, what's going on here? And kind of peeking out the side of the blind. I'm looking at this bird, and he's in full strut at about 50 yards with the two center tail fan feathers. I can see the gap. He comes back. After being shot. He's back, and he's over there strutting and carrying on at about 50 yards, and he's eyeing up this strut down, but he knows he's going back and forth and back and forth. He'll come to about 48, backs back up, and he's going back and forth. He won't come in. Something happened to me over there. Not sure what, but that bird nice. So he leaves. Well, about 45 minutes or so later, get another bird to come in. This one goes to the Jake, and he's stretched out, and I'm again. He's in range. Get on him. You good. Shoots. I see this arrow go flying, and wow, did he? And I saw a little jerk, and he was shooting like we were talking about to that front. And just trying for that wing butt. Well, what I think happened is he pulled it enough that he caught just because we found blood and we tracked. And finally the blood quit, but I think he caught just a little bit of the blood vein in that loose skin on his neck. Because there was no feathers, but there was a little blood. So I'm thinking, well, that's 2 times. I don't know what I can do from here. So anyway, we hunted again and never got another opportunity that year. Well, last year he come back for the 3rd time. And I said, are you ready, Dominic? And yeah. Well, we're going to do the same thing, see what we can make it happen. Well, nothing happened in the morning. In the afternoon, we go out, and we're in like this much snow again. And 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I spotted Tom over on this other ridge, and he's with 4 other Toms. And I thought, hey, I got nothing to lose. I don't see any hens. These boys are out for a cruise, it looks like. So I start pumping him. Pretty soon they drop down in the valley, and they kind of disappear, and they're coming up. All of a sudden I see the 4 over here. Well, where's the lead bird? All of a sudden the red head pops up just outside of the decoys there on a little swale. And he starts coming in, and I get ready. And Dominic, take a deep breath. Don't jerk the trigger. Just squeeze it. And he comes up. He goes into full proud mode again right in front of the decoy. Take him.
Got him.
Dumped him. 3rd time's a charm.
Is the story going to end with the 2 missing tail fans?
Never saw him again. But
that's what I was waiting for.
But no, this wasn't the bird that we got. Because they don't go back as a rule unless they molt the whole thing. So,
right.
So, but anyway, that was. And I'll show you the pictures afterwards. But that was a special hunt. I mean, took this guy 3 times, And when he was deathly afraid of the gun, I told his mother, I said, if you can get him to just get used to, let him shoot a 22.
Yep.
Buy him boxes of shells.
Yep.
Just let him shoot it.
Yep.
Because it's softer bang, no recoil.
Yep.
Just get him used to being around the gun. Well, it didn't happen.
No.
I says, you can pick up a cheap 22 for less than $100.
Right.
Find a used one and just let him shoot.
Shoot it. Yep.
But when he came back, he hadn't. But I had already come up with the crossbow idea.
Yeah, that's
It
awesome.
turned out. So
He got one after 3 shots.
after three
Yeah,
years
yep.
and 3 different birds that he hit. So. But we got the job done.
We got the job done. Brian, now we're back to you. The bullseye's on you now.
Oh boy.
So you gotta have some good stories.
Best hunt, I've never had a bad turkey hunt.
That's right.
Good point.
The most memorable ones I have are ones where a bird gives you trouble, or you kind of face some adversity and you eventually end up getting that turkey. I'm gonna say it's probably 7, 8, 9 years ago. I was hunting a bird up in Wapaka County, and it was just a small property, and this beautiful little spine ridge goes through it, and this turkey was always on that ridge every morning. You know where a turkey's going to be every morning. I mean, that's half the battle to getting him killed,
Yep.
right? I
Should
went
be,
in-
at least.
Right, yeah. I went in the first time, and something happened. He walked off the property with hens, second time. And I ended up hunting him 5, 6, 7 times that spring and never got him killed. And I'm
Yep.
like, you got to be kidding me. This is a 40. I can only hunt the 20 that's in the timber, basically. And I never got him killed. Probably should have had him one time, but bumped him off, Went back the next year, kind of not expecting much. There's a turkey in the same spot. Now, whether it was the same turkey or not, I don't know. I mean, it acted like that same turkey. He'd
Yep.
always fly down in this bowl with hens, end up walking off the property. Well, one morning I went in there in the black dark, and I actually kind of got lost and set up too far to the north where I wanted to be. And it was kind of one of those rainy, misty mornings. He gobbled and flew down, and I pretty much figured I'd taken myself out of the game already, So I yelped here and there, nothing responded. But, just from where I was sitting, I could see him going up the property line and kind of heading to the north along this fence line. There's a big dairy farm over there, it was at the time. And I'm like, okay, well, he had to fly down on that ridge, go across this ridge, go up to the fence line, and head that way, Guessing if that was going to happen again, if they were really keying on that field, that's where I was going to try to meet him. So I got in the next morning. We're talking 2 in the morning. It's
super early.
black dark, and I'm, from where he had been roosting, crept in there in the dark, just trying not to make any noise. It's so noisy in there, trying to sneak through the woods when a bird is maybe 50 yards away.
Yep.
And sure enough, in the morning he gobbles, and he's probably 70, 75 yards away. But that morning he flew down right there and took 2 steps right in my lap, and I'll never forget just seeing him pop over the rise. And I think I hunted that turkey 10 or 11 times, and finally pulling the trigger on that turkey was probably the most enjoyable hunt I've ever had.
Yep.
I'm like, I finally got it.
That's where we go. That unneeded pressure that we put on ourselves just for a bird.
Yeah.
But it is so much more fun. I love shooting deer. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have such a blast, but turkey hunting, I think, is my true passion.
Special.
It is. That interaction you get with the birds in the morning. The weather's usually a little bit nicer. Usually, I say that, but it's just, there's just something about calling in a big old longbeard and watching them, especially if you get to watch them for a while. Then that's what this decoy, that copper look that they always get early on in the season, the way they glisten in the sun. It's just, there's just something about it. So, again, like Zach I'm taking him out. He's going to go for the mentor hunt there in Wapaka, the Wapaka Longbeards.
Cool.
It's his first time.
Yep.
So if you guys had to say one thing for anybody that's getting into or interested in getting into turkey hunt, a little piece of advice, you got anything for anybody like that?
Patience,
Yeah.
patience,
Patience.
and more patience.
That's
That's
there
my
you go.
advice.
That's 3 good pieces of advice.
Yeah, patience is huge.
Yep.
Hunters are almost always too impatient. The
Right.
turkey, all a turkey has to do in a day is fly down. Well, he doesn't even have to do that really, but fly up to roost at night. He has no concept of time.
Nope.
He's driven by natural urges to breed, to feed, to strut, to flee from danger, but he is on no schedule. He doesn't feel a schedule at all.
Right.
We call-
Sometimes environmental factors will prompt him to move different places or behave a certain way. But I mean, he doesn't have to go to work at 9 o'clock.
Nope.
He doesn't know anything about a noon closure. I
Nope.
mean, if he wants to run at hen calling he heard in 5 minutes, he might do it. If he wants to sit out there and gobble for 5 hours, he might do it.
Yep.
And too often we're sitting there thinking, well, I've been working this bird for an hour. I really need to move. This isn't going to work. I mean,
Right.
how many times would we have killed a turkey had we simply sat there, been more patient and let him be a turkey and eventually come to us?
Yep.
you know?
I come up with a definition for that, Brian. That's called turkey time.
Turkey time. that's
Turkey
right,
time.
Yeah.
They got their own clock.
They
and
do.
it's
They do.
turkey time.
And and it's when you think you should move, give yourself another 5
Half
to
hour.
10 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or
Half
half an
hour.
hour. Yep.
Yep.
It's like fishing, one more cast. When one cast turns into, the next 4 or 5 hours of fishing, but just give that bird some time.
How many times have you been out there where you've hunted all morning, haven't heard much, and then you're like, well, I better mow the lawn or I got to get to work,
Yep.
Yeah. 11:30, you run one more call and a bird hammers, and all of a sudden at noon you're done. It happens constantly.
It is.
Never ever give up, and always, like you said, give it another half hour, another hour.
Yep.
Be more patient. So.
Yeah, I would say, and then if you do get lucky enough to get a good mentor or get on a bird and shoot one right away in that time frame, like we were talking about, a quick hunt, it's not going to be that way. For me, I notice all the time. I'm like on an every other year rotation. Last year I got lucky enough, shot my 2 best toms. Now I'm fully expecting to have the worst turkey year I ever can this year. Just because, then you get like the guys like you guys are talking about, they go out every single year and they can produce a bird every single year. But for me, it's just every other year I think I have the phenomenal hunts, but every year I'm learning something different as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say that's the main thing about turkey hunting is you're never a master. I don't care how long you've hunted them, how many places you've been, how many turkeys you've killed.
Nope.
Even the best guys will tell you you're always a student.
Yep.
Even a guy who was
You
killed,
always learn.
Jeff Buds killed 500-600 turkeys in his life. I mean, he is always learning. And every day you're in the woods, you're going to learn something different. You're going to, as a young hunter, you're going to get a lot of stuff thrown at you, all this culture, the calling, the woodsmanship, the weapons, the vocabulary, the turkey body language, the behavior, all their idiosyncrasies. And you're going to be a little bit overwhelmed at first. And, after a few turkeys under your belt, you kind of think that you've got things figured out, but you really never have them totally figured out.
No.
Every year you go out there and they do something completely different. They show you unique behavior. They act in a way you've never seen before. And as you're walking out, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, hunted for 30 years, and I just learned something today I've never experienced before.
Be willing to always learn.
Absolutely.
Back in the 90s, 90s, I guess it was, they did, the DNR always worked with the National Wild Turkey Federation, and they did clinics. And I was an instructor for a number of years, and these clinics were free, and it was strictly for novice hunters, basically. I mean, I had some students that came back a number of times. They wanted to hear something else that I had said. They wanted to hit her the second time, whatever. But it always came down to, they always wanted to, there was always about the calling. They always wanted to know the calling. And you got deer hunters in there. Well, what about a tree stand? Well, doesn't no good. Turkeys look up all the time. Half of their predators fly. So, but anyway, to the point, they would go through this, and they all wanted to be caught up in this calling. And I said, you can call as well as you could become the best caller you ever wanted. But there's 2 basic callers you need to know: a yelp and a cluck. But make the cluck soft. I mean, don't get carried away with it. And that's all you really have to know. And patience is the big thing. I always preach that. But I said, and then I'd look around the room, there might be 50 people in there. There might be 60 people in there. And I said, you've all sat here. At the end, I'd always say, you've all sat here for about 3 hours. You listen to the biology. You listen to the safety part of it. And you listen to the calling part of it. And it's some technique. And the woodsmanship, like you said. You've all sat here and listened to that we've gone on for about 3.5 hours. And we'll open it up to questions, but I got one last thought for you. And I look around the room, and I said, there's at least a half a dozen of you in here that are going to walk out in that turkey woods because you're going to do your preseason scouting, and you know where a bird is going to be, and you're going to go walk out there, and you're going to sit down by a tree, and you're going to muffle a call. You're going to blow it, and you're going to be cussing yourself. 5 minutes later, there's a bird going to land within 30 yards and looking right at you, and you're going to shoot him, and you're going to say to yourself, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah, this ain't hard.
This ain't hard at all.
Hard. I've heard that so many times.
And then for the next 10 years after, you won't get another bird.
Yep.
And they look at me like I've got leprosy
True
or something.
Statement.
But
there's not a truer statement
but
out
it's
there.
a fact.
It is, especially for turkeys. And I know we kind of want to wrap this up. You guys got to get on the calling for, but You had mentioned tree stands, and one of the best stories that I ever have with a buddy was a tree stand hunt. I go to his house. Every time I see him, we bring this up, and he actually sent me a message a while ago saying, "Are you available to call for me this year?" Well, of course. He lets me hunt his property, but I show up and I'm ready to go. Camouflage, head to toe. I'm ready to go, and I knock on the door, and it's like 4:30 in the morning, early. I'm a little nervous because I think we were still around high school time, so I don't want to wake anybody else up because he's not outside. I figure, if you're as jacked as I am, you'd be ready to go. Knock on the door softly, and finally he comes strolling out. I think he had white tennis shoes on.
Beacons.
Blue jeans, a camouflage long sleeve shirt, and then a Badger black stocking cap on. And I go, "Dude, you got to get ready." He goes, "What do you mean? I'm ready." I'm like, right away, this morning, this hunt shot. Whatever, let's make the best of the situation. So then I'm like, all right, where are we going? Because it's his land. Well, we're going to go hunt this field. I'm like, okay, how are we ready to walk? He's like, walk? What are you talking about? Gets on the four-wheeler. And again, drives the four-wheeler to the edge of the woods, parks it. Now I'm like, this hunt, there's no way I'm confident after this point. I'm trying to be as stealthy as I possibly can. In my world of turkey hunting, this doesn't ever exist. So then I'm like, okay, you got a good tree we should set up on? And he goes, tree? What are you talking about? Here's his gun stand. So we climb up in his gun stand. I'm like, all right, dude, yeah, let's try it. So we sit there. You remember, he's in blue jeans. I'm prepared. So I throw a couple decoys out, and we get up. And the way this property, I've killed a couple birds off of it, is phenomenal property for turkeys. It's a little bit of hill where they can roost on. I think there's some mixed oaks, maples on this hill. And then it drops down to a huge ag field that rolls to a swamp with some, tamarack, some cedars. Yeah. Just, you got all kinds of turkey habitat in one location. And these birds, if they want to go here, they got to come through this open field. And so his deer stand is right on the edge of the woods, and we're watching over this huge field. And so it's getting lighter and lighter, and all of a sudden some cranes fired up. And usually when a crane fires up, listen, because there's going to be a gobble somewhere around that. So we hear one, and it's 35 miles away. I'm like, oh, that's cool. At least we heard one. Our time's not wasted. This bird's gobbling in the distance. I'm like, oh, cool. Good morning. So we're literally almost chatting like we're chatting right now because I have no confidence in this hunt whatsoever. And we're still chatting, and all of a sudden a bird behind us on this ridge above us gobbles. And now it's like, oh, man, now we're game time mode. I'm like, dude, this bird's 60 yards behind us. The chances of us killing him is pretty slim, but he's 60 yards behind us. So light tree yelps, a little bit of soft calling, and all of a sudden I hear a helicopter. I'm like, what's going on? Hear that bird pitches down, flies over the top of this elevated gun stand, lands in the decoys.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, oh, it's cool, and all of a sudden, on the ground floor of the blind, my leg is just going. He's looking over at me, and the gun is still sitting in the corner. I'm like, are you going to shoot this bird? I don't know. This is really his first time ever turkey hunting. And I'm like, can you see him? He's like, yeah, he's sitting right here. I'm like, okay. Well, is his beard big enough? I'm like, I don't want to move. I can't really see him. I can see something. It looked like he had a beard. And I go to him. He goes, well, if it's a Jake, I don't want to shoot it. I looked at him. I said, how many turkeys have you killed? None. Shoot the dang turkey. So then the gun comes up. He gets it on there, and meanwhile, he's cool as a cucumber. My leg is just hammering the bottom of the blind. I sound like Thumper from Bambi. I'm just going so crazy. All right, can you see him? Yep, he's right there. Shoot. Boom, drops him. I'm out. I'm up. I'm running down. I've literally jumped down this ladder to get down there. Here it's a 9-inch tom. I had a 9-inch beard on it. Close to almost 1-inch spurs. And he just comes strolling down. He's like, look at how excited you are. I'm like, why are you not as excited as I am? Yeah. But again, it's when you think it isn't going to work, there's a real good possibility that it may. Just don't give up on it. Show the patience of it. But that is, every time I see him, that story always comes up. Because I'm like, I didn't even think there was no chance in heck we were even going to see a turkey, let alone get one that morning. And again, we're done at the restaurant. I think we ran into Fremont and got some dinner at one of the diners there or something like that. But I'm like, this never should have happened this way.
You never know.
You just never know.
No.
There's so many stories like that.
Yep.
And that is the fun part about being a mentor as well. I know we're here to talk about the turkey calling competition, but I think this one's kind of turned into a mentor type show where, you know, if anybody out there has not been a part of a mentor situation, whether it's fishing, deer hunting, or turkey hunting, donate some of your time and be a part of it, because you're going to change the life of somebody and hopefully turn them into a hunter for life.
Yeah, and you won't regret it. It's time well
No.
spent. I mean, when you see the excitement, younger person, even adult you introduce
Yes.
to hunting or fishing, it kind of takes you back to when you were a kid and you
Yep.
got so excited about it. I mean, I'll never forget how I felt when I killed my first deer or my first turkey,
Right.
first duck, you know. And when you see, you know, my nephew or some other young hunter take his first turkey or first deer, it's just like, oh man, that's, you know, I'd trade $10 or 10 gobblers to see that again.
For sure.
you
And
know.
I think that's part of what keeps guys like you and I, you know, the three of us going, is that every year it's almost like a rejuvenation, you know. You get a first. I always tell somebody, you know, you can make a first pretty much out of first or any kind of hunt or fishing expedition, you know, and they look at me and they're like, what do you mean by that? Well, you buy a new bow. This is your first deer with that new bow. Buy a new shotgun. First time to a property, something like that. You know, so often we get caught up in the trophy aspect of things,
Yep.
where we got to bring it back to reality. And, you know, if it's a Jake, if it's a bearded hen, if it's the 12-inch Tom that's running out there, or a 30-point buck, shoot whatever makes you happy. You know, but we get caught up into it. And when these kids or these adults go out and you get them their first turkey, you give them that first bird that comes in fully strutting, or their gobble, whatever it may be. There's nothing more that jacks me up every single year and makes me excited to get back out there and be a mentor. And that's why we do it every single year.
Well, let me throw one more shameless plug in for the NWTF then.
Yep.
The NWTF is, again, like as I mentioned earlier, it was it was all about the bird.
Yep.
In this day and age, it's about their mission statement is save the habitat and save the hunt. And save the habitat is improving turkey habitat and opening public acreage.
Yep.
And save the hunt is what they call their R3 program. It's recruit, retain, and reactivate.
Yep.
Let's get those hunters back. We've lost a lot of hunters over the years, and the NWTF is strong behind it. And if you'd like to become a member, it's easy to find out about. They have a website. There's local banquets all over the state of Wisconsin.
Right.
And I would encourage you to join. And if you're serious about this mentoring, lots of those NWTF groups have mentored hunts.
Well, and I think that's where we're going to kind of start wrapping it up. So we're saying, you know, so if anybody's interested in joining the NWTF, just go to their website, right?
Yep, there's banquet lists on there.
banquet lists and-
Or they can just flat out join.
They can just
Join online, right?
Join online, and then as far as reaching out to chapters or special organizations in Wisconsin, because we're here, that's all listed on their website.
Yep, there'll be an events list, and it'll have local chapters. I know there's one coming up in Wapaka. There's one coming up in Green Bay.
Yep.
That's two of them. I'm involved with the one in Green Bay, so I know about that. That's the end of March, and I think Wapaka's is the first week of April.
Yep.
There's one in Denmark in the first week of April.
Yep.
I mean, they're around. And I'm sure there's Appleton. There was one at Grand Chute. I think that was in February.
Yeah.
They had one already.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking the banquets.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. And then
That's the easiest way to sign up as a member, and you're also helping the NWTF.
And just to your point, Greg, I'll say, NWTF is a great group because the money that you put into NWTF stays with their mission.
89
They
cents
have
on
a-
the dollar.
They have a very, very high rating from
Yeah.
the charity rating organizations. And one thing I also meant to mention, too, they have this year what they've called the Mentor Pledge. And they're asking experienced hunters to
I didn't wear my button.
take the the Mentor Pledge. And that was a big thrust this year at Nashville at the Grand Nationals about people taking the Mentor Pledge and vowing to take someone out and introduce them to hunting this season.
Exactly.
So.
we need that right now, especially the way everything is, and get that kid or that adult off the video screen and get them out there and see what nature's all about.
Single moms are a good target, because you take a single mom and their son that never would have an opportunity, or daughter,
Yep.
their children probably never would have had an opportunity. But if you can find somebody that's in that situation and you can get her interested, and you can get it out there, and she shares any of that excitement the three of us were talking about, she'll want to share it with her kids.
Well, the good chance that single parent may well even want to be a part of it as well.
Exactly.
You know,
at some point.
At some point, and it's just we see that all the time. We sell a bow to the kids because the kids are interested in it, and mom and dad are not too far to follow because it's archery. You know, I'm off topic a little bit, but like the outdoors in general, especially archery, is something that we can all do together. I can watch you go play a football game. I can watch you play soccer or basketball, whatever sport you may participate in. But we can go turkey hunting together. We can go fishing together. We can shoot our bows together, and we can make it a great time. Where, you know, we can't be that involved in regular organized sports for the most part. You know, we can do camps and all that other stuff, but the outdoors is a great way to be together as one.
No. To an example, I use the single mothers is because they don't have a father figure to take the kids hunting.
Yep.
But now, like even in my regards, I took both my sons out, and their first birds meant more to me than my first bird.
Correct.
And my wife doesn't like to hunt, but I've got her leaning. I've got her shooting pistols now. She loves to shoot a pistol, but she wouldn't want to go hunting. But she likes to shoot a pistol.
Yep.
And now she's talking about starting to want to shoot a bow. I don't know.
Perfect.
We'll set you up. We'll
Real
let
Shot
you.
can help her get a bow.
But I mean, I'm just saying it doesn't have to be hunting.
Nope.
Because you mentioned the archery.
Yep.
And it made me think of my wife. I think I'd kind of like to just target shoot with a bow.
My wife.
Will I get you set up?
That's the way my wife is 100%. She goes, I don't ever want to hunt, but I'll and we last year we went to Superior and we shot a 3D target league or a competition. It was a blast. You know, so yeah, it doesn't always have to be involved around hunting, but the outdoors does, a great thing for a lot of different organizations. Plus we help with all the restoration. People don't, understand where all the funding goes to. Well, ask the NWTF. What like you said, how much on a dollar goes?
Well, I heard the number of 89 cents on the dollar.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. And that's creating more public lands, that's creating habitat, that's all these other benefits that it does.
And youth and women activities too, it goes to too.
Well, and that's what Carl was saying. We'll get back to it. And on the call competition, that when they sell these calls that they're going to be on display at the Real Shot, that money goes back to
the outreach program.
The outreach program. Yep. Phenomenal. I mean, so it's one of those things as soon as these calls get posted on, I believe, eBay, right?
Hey, that's where Carl's posting them, I think. Yeah.
Get them out there, check into them, and plus, or just get into the Real Shot and see what you may potentially be buying. So, so for 2019, what do you guys got coming up? Anything awesome? Any plugs you guys need to say?
Lots of turkey hunting, hopefully. So yeah, hoping for nice warm weather between now and second season, so we get a little of snow gone. But I'll have been out of state quite a bit before that, so I'll get plenty in. I'm just looking forward to it. Looking forward to hearing that first gobble.
Right.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that first gobble too. Everybody, learn to hunt. First weekend of April.
Yep.
Middle of May, I'll be doing Challenge the Outdoors Hunt with handicapped or wheelchairs, and we get involved with that, and then I have to get some turkey hunting in on my own too. So I'll probably chase them in Wisconsin a couple different periods, and I think I'm going to Minnesota this year, and that's probably still thinking Texas.
What about you said Kansas? Maybe you got to get that. You're trying to still go for
I
that.
might my brother-in-law lives in Texas, and he's found a place for me to hunt, so I might have to make a trip to Texas this year.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Greg, don't lose my phone number then. Let's stay in touch, right? You're going to get Brian's number too. We're all. We can document it on the what was it, the article you're writing for? What are you head editor again?
On the hunt section in Turkey Country.
There you go. Yeah, we could all be in there.
I like that.
We just gave him an
Texas
idea.
Rendezvous. There we go.
There you go.
There's a title already. You heard it right here.
Texas Roundup.
Yeah, hopefully.
Something like that. Something like that. So. Well, cool. And you guys are both on social media. I don't know. Is your page more public open or?
I just have a regular page,
That's all
but I try to share as much turkey country content as I can. NWTF news.
Yep.
Personal turkey hunting stuff as well. So it's fun. That's really the thing I enjoy most about social media is being on there this time of year.
Right.
Hearing all the sound files from people running calls, seeing all the turkeys down south. And it's really neat. It just stokes the fire so much.
Oh.
Jason's been just poking it lately too. Jason Lupadaris.
Oh, yeah.
His little clips that these are turkey tracks where I'm going.
Yeah. That my dad commented on here, I turned him, and he wasn't a turkey hunter. And now every year it's like, when's the turkey hunt? When's the turkey? I'm like, yeah, it's the same time every year, man.
It's coming.
It's so much fun. But as far as you got books, you got articles out there, people can just find those on the NWTF website. And
Yeah,
stuff?
absolutely. The Turkey Country, you can actually view the magazine online, nwtf.org. The latest issue just came out here this past week, so you can view that. Books, yeah, I have a couple of them are out of print, but books you can just contact me via Facebook, and I have several copies of the out-of-print book, several copies of my latest book, which was self-published about 2-3 years ago.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's just kind of a nice community thing to be able to talk about it and interact with turkey hunters across the country. So.
Right. Well, cool. I appreciate you guys making the time
Well,
to
thanks
join
for-
us in here today.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Thanks
hopefully
for
we'll
having
get
us.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get you. The stories were phenomenal. We actually had one gentleman comment, the stories were great to listen to, and that's the best part about it, or the stories we come back with after a good or a bad hunt, So, and like you said, there's really not a bad hunt, so
No
I gotta
bad
be
hunt.
careful
Nope.
when I say that, but it's
Some
all,
hunts are just better than others.
some
Right.
hunts are they could be quicker. So
Yeah.
we're gonna recap here. We're gonna have kind of Zach run it through it here. I know he put it on there earlier. We still have our real deal going on.
We do. We've got the real deal going on, which is our real giveaway. We've got, probably 13 days left only. So
Yep.
13 days, get in on that. I posted a link early on in the show. Get over there, sign up for that. There are 9,226 total entries in there. So
Nice. And there's only 13 days left. So what we're doing
13.
is we're giving away that Stratic 2500 CI4, and that is a $230 reel,
Yep,
right?
230. So that's definitely a really, really, really good deal for you to get in on. Other than that, I think that's really the only big promotion we have going on right now.
Still running our affiliate program. You
Yep.
know, we're trying to get back to some people to get people signed up. So if you're not familiar with that,
Yep.
all you do is you sign up. You can be affiliate of the Real Shot. You get 7% back on any what is it? How do you want to say that? Sales.
You basically, any sale that you produce through
Yep.
your custom link that we provide you, you will get 7% back off of that sale, and it's uncapped. So as long as somebody buys within 60 days
That's how
of
long our
clicking
cookie
your link.
duration is.
Yep. If somebody clicks your link, they don't buy today, but 59 days from now they make a $100 purchase, you're gonna get $7 back.
Woohoo!
So
Nice.
awesome.
It's easy work for all the cool stuff that we carry here, and we
Definitely.
have. So we got that. We're always, we're on social media, Instagram,
Yep.
YouTube.
As always, just remember when you're watching TRS Live, like, comment, and share this video. It helps us tremendously. Also, head on over to our Instagram, which is at TRS Outdoors. And, of course, also right on YouTube, you can look up The Real Shot. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers on there now, so that's pretty awesome. And, yeah, that's pretty much everything. If you still use Twitter, we're on there, too. So
Oh, yeah,
at The Real Shot.
At the Real Shot. So there's so many different ways, and these guys are, they're going to be able to watch this awesome turkey footage and our turkey talk that we did today. And Monday we're going to be right back in here, probably just talking really to Brian.
Yep.
He
yeah,
was
he's
gone
been
fishing a bass tournament, so I think he's sitting in 8th place as going into today. So hopefully he can get on some bigger fish and finish, and hopefully in the top 5 for sure. So he'll probably have some good, interesting stories. He's not very far from where those tornadoes are blowing through. So
Right.
So we also have today is Free Hat Friday. This is the hat. I didn't really speak about it too much until right now, but this hat will be posted up here shortly around the noon time. So go ahead and start throwing the numbers in.
Yep.
Turkey decoys, we mentioned the Avian X's. If you haven't been in now there's some big changes. The wall is still up, but the floor looks awesome.
Yep. It's loaded right now.
There's so much turkey between shotgun shells, there's decoys, there's camouflage. I mean, we're in turkey mode here at the Real Shot. Plus the dudes are working hard to get all the fishing out as well. So it's a cool place to go. Plus we're handling the Great Lakes Open Turkey Call Making Competition, which is starting. Well, as soon as we get done with here, we can go start judging. So we better wrap this up. So that's here today, and then it'll be open to the public tomorrow. So if you're bored tomorrow and want to come check out the store, you also get a chance to, play around on some turkey calls. So again, thanks guys for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your Friday. Remember, with the weather coming in, to be safe, and we'll see everybody on Monday, right, Zach?
Yep. See everybody next time.